Denmark is one of the flattest countries on Earth. Its highest point is so low you could bike over it without noticing. In fact, Mølleøj, Denmark's peak, stands just 170.86 meters tall. That is shorter than a downtown office building. But this lack of mountains isn't just a quirky topographical fact. It has shaped Denmark's entire history, defense strategies, climate, economy, and even how Danes live today. So how did an entire country end up so pancake flat? And why does that matter more than you think? In this video, we'll uncover how a lack of elevation turned into a surprising advantage, and why Denmark's geography is way more powerful than it looks. Look at Denmark on a relief map and you will search in vain for jagged contours. The green smudge of Jutland barely rises above the North Sea, and the country's official summit, Mølleøj, reaches only 170.86 meters according to a nationwide laser survey in 2005. That height would hardly qualify as a foothill in Norway, yet in Denmark, it is the top of the nation. The average elevation is about 34 meters, placing Denmark among Europe's 3 flattest sovereign states. So, where did the mountains go? The straight answer is that they never had time to form. Denmark sits just west of the ancient Baltic Shield, on a quieter tectonic margin that missed the alpine mountain building collisions millions of years ago. Then came the Ice Age. For nearly 3 million years, glaciers up to 2 kilometers thick bulldozed Denmark's bedrock, flattening any early peaks and dumping sediment that now anchors farms, aquifers, and fjords. When the last ice retreated around 11,000 years ago, gentle drumlins and sandy coastlines were all that remained. Flat does not mean dull. Hilly pockets such as the Mols Bjerge in East Jutland show where ice fronts stalled, piling up hills that now cradle heathland and wild ponies. Elsewhere, deep tunnel valleys cut under the ice act as aquifers that provide nearly every Danish household with clean groundwater. Denmark's geography is a story told in whispers, not exclamations. Its gentle ripples quietly steering everything from agriculture to energy to identity. For centuries, Danes misidentified their peak, calling Himmelbjerget the highest point at just 147 meters until precise surveys corrected the record in the 19th century. That error hints at how subtle the topography truly is. But subtle does not mean insignificant to daily life. During the Quaternary period, the Scandinavian ice sheet advanced and retreated at least 20 times. Each surge acted like a bulldozer 10 times higher than modern skyscrapers, pushing moraines ahead and grinding crystalline rock into flour-fine sediment. The last great chill peaked about 21,000 years ago, and the southern edge of that ice stopped and stalled along what geologists now call the main stationary line. Stand on that invisible border and you see this story in real time. To the east rise orderly ridges and kettle lakes. To the west stretch the flat outwashed plains where meltwater dumped enormous fans of sand. Glacial maps show a patchwork of tongues that once slid down fjords, gouging tunnel valleys hundreds of meters deep. This repeated glaciation didn't just flatten the terrain, it created buried aquifers and valleys that today supply over 90% of Denmark's drinking water. And just as glaciers shaped the land, they left behind a farming powerhouse. The ice also sculpted thousands of coastal inlets known as fjords, but unlike Norway's towering walls, Danish fjords are shallow and meandering, ideal for fishing villages and modern shipping lanes. The same flattening process explains why Denmark is so rich in fertile loam. When the glaciers pulverized granite, they left mineral dust that became some of Europe's most productive soils. Eskers snake across North Zealand like ancient railways, guiding early road builders and even today's high-speed fiber lines in surprising ways. Yet Denmark's flattest asset might be the one that pedals, where the geography itself powers not just tractors, but bikes, turbines, and trade. Step into a Danish farmyard and you grasp the first dividend of a flat country. Nearly 61% of Denmark's surface area is cultivated, one of the highest shares in Europe. In 2022, the nation averaged 8.4 tons of wheat per hectare, a figure that rivals the best plots in France and easily beats the European Union's mean of about 5.7 tons. Those extra tons are not just luck. Flat topography allows large fields free of troublesome rock ledges, so farmers can run massive 12-meter seed drills in perfectly straight GPS lines, shaving fuel use and labor time. Combine that with temperate rains, and you get a grain machine that exports more calories than the country consumes. The same open horizon invites another set of giants. wind turbines. Without mountain shadows to disrupt airflow, onshore wind speeds stay steady and strong. Denmark installed its first commercial wind farm as early as 1978. As of 2023, Denmark draws around 55 to 60% of its electricity from wind power, with renewables making up over 75% of total electricity production. That's unmatched by any mountainous European neighbour. The government credits the flat geography for reducing construction costs because roads require minimal grading when hauling 100-metre blades across Jutland. Industry reaps benefits too. Flatland simplifies rail and highway layouts, shrinking transit times between Copenhagen and the German border to under 4 hours. The result is a logistics corridor that feeds Lego bricks to Hamburg ports and ferries pharmaceuticals to Sweden overnight. But agriculture, energy and freight are only half the story. In Denmark, a flat horizon is not just scenery, it is transport engineering. Copenhagen tops the global Copenhagenese index of bike-friendly cities, overtaking Amsterdam. On a weekday morning, half of all commuters in the capital choose a bicycle over a car, a statistic that astonishes visiting mayors. The city keeps them safe with 5,000 kilometers of protected lanes, but flat land is the silent hero. No crushing climbs means riders from 8 to 80 can cruise at a steady 15 kilometers per hour without breaking a sweat. Bridges turn that comfort into speed. Take the cykelslangen, or bicycle snake. Each time someone rides its orange spine across the harbour, another few seconds vanishes from the trip clock. State of Green, Denmark's clean tech consortium, ran the numbers after building a trio of such bridges and found a 9% socio-economic return. Flat streets nurture culture too. Cargo bikes haul toddlers, groceries, and sound equipment for street concerts. During the pandemic, they even delivered library books. Each pedal stroke chips away at car culture. Today, just a third of Copenhagen households even own a vehicle. But as you glide beside the harbour, notice something uneasy. There is not much land between your tyres and the water. That vulnerability grows with every centimetre of sea level rise. A threat no mountain ridge can block. Denmark's gentle slopes fade almost seamlessly into the Baltic Sea and the North Sea. That beauty masks a hard number. About 800,000 Danes live less than 1 metre above today's high tide line. That's nearly 14% of the population, concentrated mostly around Copenhagen and the low-lying Wadden Sea coast. The 1872 storm surge drowned 80 residents and wiped out coastal villages, a blunt signal of vertical vulnerability. Climate models now suggest Danish seas could rise 30 to 100 centimeters by 2100 if global emissions stay on their present path. With no hills for retreat, planners must defend the low ground. The Danish Coastal Authority scans beaches with LiDAR each winter and pumps sand back where waves stole it. The program costs roughly $100 million a year, yet OECD analysis showed skipping maintenance could expose $20 billion in assets by mid-century. In the harsh town of Ribe, homeowners already lift timber houses onto concrete piers, while volunteer crews rehearse dike closures as if they were fire drills. Copenhagen faces the dilemma in stereo. The capital sprawls across glacial Till Islands, stitched by bridges just above the tide. King Christian IV's 17th century stone sea wall still marks the waterfront, but satellite models indicate a 50-centimeter surge would overtop it. When the Bodil storm in December 2013 flooded metro stations and blacked out parts of Zealand, the City Hall called the event a final warning. Political momentum gathered behind a giant project rising from harbour mud, a scheme that promises salvation to many and headaches to others. Planners propose reclaiming 700 hectares, enough for 35,000 residents, and a new ring road that doubles as a storm barrier around Copenhagen against future Baltic storm surges. To see how a flat nation builds its own higher ground, journey with us to Lynetteholm. Climb a scaffolding tower on Copenhagen Harbour's eastern edge, and you overlook a peninsula of sand rivaling the city centre. This is Lynetteholm, the largest civil works project Denmark has attempted since the Øresund Bridge. Approved by Parliament in 2021, the plan is to dump 80 million tonnes of sand into the harbour, creating 700 hectares that will serve as a storm shield in a new district. Supporters call it life insurance, claiming the reclaimed land will absorb future surges and give Copenhagen higher ground for critical rail lines and power substations. If global seas jump 1 metre, the bulkhead design should keep downtown dry while other capitals scramble. Critics see a pricey mirage, Biologists warn that such a massive fill may choke the Øresund Strait, restricting salt inflow and robbing the Baltic of oxygen. Climate activists argue that the project's carbon footprint clashes with Denmark's aim to cut emissions by 70% by 2030. Kayakers mourn the loss of an open harbour. The fight reveals what Denmark's flatness really means. Every choice is public and permanent because there's no high ground to hide mistakes. In a land without peaks, it's human ingenuity that rises highest, turning low ground into high achievement. Sand barges unload day and night, lawsuits advance. Nobody knows if Lynetteholm will prove saviour or scourge, yet Denmark's destiny now sits just a few metres above the tide. Economists at the University of Aarhus estimate that the project could unlock investment worth $15 billion in housing and grid upgrades, but only if buyers stay confident after the flood test, as storms grow more frequent. Do you think Denmark's flat terrain is a hidden advantage or a looming disaster? Drop your opinion below, and remember to like and subscribe for more surprising geography stories.